stop right now. Thank you very much. The Anthem podcast. This is Corey.
What was that?
It was a Spice Girls song that just all of a sudden popped in my head. I'm like, yeah, why not use that? And then I realized that I couldn't go through like the entire chorus.
Yeah.
And get to a good point where the Anthem podcast would just fit in nicely. So therefore, there you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is 3:35 Pacific. That makes it 6:35 Eastern Time. And the Anthem is live from coast to coast, coming to you from the beautiful #OTALA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us. If you are joining us on the live stream especially, thank you for tuning in. And if you're not, if you're listening to this on a regular podcast, you know, when it comes out on Tuesday on the website.
Or on the YouTubes.
Or on YouTube, then you want to make sure that you join us every Saturday when we put up a new episode, which isn't true because this week it's actually going to have to be not on Saturday. Next week it's going to be not on Saturday. So the best thing you can do is go to The Anthem on Facebook, make sure you like the page, and then turn on notifications so that it lets you know when we are live, and then you'll be able to join us anytime we put out a live video. So you want to make sure you join us for that.
Yeah. Because you don't want to miss a single second of us preparing to get this show ready before. Yeah.
You want to make sure you jump in right at the beginning while we're just updating stuff and getting stuff ready. So
yeah. Usually if you've popped in at this point, you're good because now we're fully into show mode. There's no There's no Corey just like sitting there like thinking about some sort of thing to say.
Right. And unfortunately, one thing you're not going to get to see on the live stream or on the YouTube this week is Corey's beautiful mane of hair because he's chosen to wear the hat.
I mean, I guess I haven't gotten the hair properly prepared, so it's a little messy. Well,
and there was a little bit of the Anthem world controversy this week because...
Oh, really?
Yes. Because some comments were made on the Anthem Alliance podcast, which you guys should absolutely be listening to. Check out AnthemAlliancePodcast.com, at Anthem Alliance on all your social networks. They put out new episodes seemingly just whenever they can get them done. Not that we don't appreciate them, but like there's no schedule going on with those guys. But they're busy. We understand. So, but make sure you check that out.
Dirty Short says Adam Carolla says hi. I'm gonna put the hair down just to further Rob's point of how majestic it is.
Yeah. And you should also be checking out the Dirty Shore Underground podcast, another member of the Anthem Digital Network. They've been getting likes from Adam Carolla on Instagram. I don't know how that's happening, but good for you guys. You're doing good work. But yeah, so there was some controversy on Anthem Alliance this week when a comparison was made about hair. Yeah. And Brandon, who has a majestic mane, and I'm slightly jealous of his hair situation. I mean, this is as good as it gets for me. I mean,
and you can't grow it long really because it's not.
Do you remember the one time I had it super long?
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew it out, I want to say in law school. I think it was in law school. And it got like...
Posture part of law school.
Yes, yeah. And it got like shoulder length. It was long and unmanageable. Like, imagine me. I could actually put it up into a ponytail. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit much. And I hated it. This would drive me insane. I don't know how you're doing it.
Well, I think the big thing about me and this hair, it's not showing as well right now, but it is super curly.
Okay.
So when it's out and it's in its full majesticness,
right,
it's super curly and it looks nice.
I will argue that last point is not true.
People like the curly hair.
No, wait, no, nobody likes it. Nobody likes it.
I like it.
You liking it can be fine. That I suppose that's enough. But here's my argument. Like, I grew out my hair in law school. I was on college campus, and I was kind of a hippie, and I was like doing a thing. I need a haircut now.
You were all kinds of crunchy.
I was all kinds of crunchy. But I'm like, I'm 5 weeks away from a haircut, and I'm already thinking, like, I got to get in there this weekend. I hope that they're open on Memorial Day weekend. Like, I need to get a haircut now that I can actually get one. Because this is just too much. I have too much hair right now. It's driving me insane. I couldn't deal with this. But this is a grown-up's haircut. This is how grown-ups wear their hair.
Yeah.
I deal with Musical.ly for my job on a regular basis. You have the haircut of a Musical.ly kid. And as much shit talk as there is about the artist who we represent and the music that they make and how they look and how they dress.
Number one, they don't make any music.
Oh, God.
They don't make any music.
Okay.
These kids who have their smartphones and they're just doing like the
No. So, but some of them have branched out, and now
they're not making music. They're just looking like idiots on music.
Some of them have branched out, and they're making their own music. They have their own songs. You guys can check out Mark Thomas's new album. You can check out Jacob Sartorius's new album.
Does it sound anything like the thing that you were playing on Google Home when I got back from picking up lunch?
No. I think that was...
Or is it like actually talented people making music?
Well, I mean, your definition of talented and my definition of talent are very different, I suppose, because you want it to be 2000 again and have the same music. Because this is what we do. We continue to age, and because all of the crappy music that we had to deal with doesn't make it, we only remember the hits. Then you're like, well, back in my day, we had good music. No, there was good music and there was bad music, but now we only remember the good stuff.
I remember the bad stuff.
Okay.
I would rather have the bad... So, like, you know, I wasn't like a big Backstreet Boys and NSYNC fan.
Okay, I'm going to call bullshit on that.
What?
I imagine you at an O-Town concert taking your shirt off and throwing it up on stage.
No. Certainly not O-Town. But even if, let's say O-Town was the pinnacle of boy bands in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
And by the way, they weren't. They were like they were probably like 8th or 9th in the depth chart of boy bands. Behind your like Backstreet Boys and your NSYNC and your...
And KOTB even. I mean, they were like on the downswing, but people remembered them. And if they'd done...
Right, but I'm saying as far as like new artists of the time. But I'm saying like, you know, O-Town wouldn't have been top 5.
Right.
Yet, I would almost give... If O-Town was like the pinnacle of pop music right now. As opposed to...
Really?
Like fucking Justin Bieber doing a Spanish song.
Have you listened to the song? It's so good. I hate that I like it. I hate that Justin Bieber had 2 back-to-back #1 hits. I like DJ Khaled's I'm the One, and I like Despacito. It's fantastic. I don't know why you hate it so much.
I like I heard the original version, which was way better.
Yeah, I mean his is the remix because they added Justin Bieber.
Yeah, but I don't see the point. I don't see the point. And also, just real quick before we get off on this, because we've gotten on a musical tangent, I don't know who's in charge of Katy Perry, but whoever it is doing a fucking horrible job. They've ruined Katy Perry, which is one of the easiest things to not ruin.
Yeah.
Pin up black hair.
Pin up
busty outfit.
Yes. Corey's wheelhouse all day.
Generally non-offensive pop.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you can aspire for a little bit, but not too much. Just
she gets a little causey in her song sometimes.
Oh, I mean, just saying, like as far as like letting a song go more towards the ballad end than a pop song end.
Right.
You can go 10-15% more towards the ballad side, but don't go too far.
Yeah, keep it pop.
Because you still want the people who buy the album to be able to sing it in the car.
Right. Yeah.
Like when you buy an Adele album, there's a certain point where you tap out unless you're like a real good singer, you know, like.
Well, there's a point where you should.
You should tap out. If you're in the car yourself, like there's no rules, but I'm saying like if you're with other people and it's just like if you get too high and it doesn't sound right, you got to be like, nope, not for me. I'm not Adele. Like.
Right. Yeah.
But now instead, what we got is Katy Perry with the worst haircut I've ever seen.
Corey doesn't like short hair on girls. He's not a feminist. He hates women.
Well, as we learned from the latest episode of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, feminism is about pleasing men, but actually pleasing yourself.
Right. I love the new season of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. If you're not watching it, you absolutely should. Watch all the episodes to catch up because it's a fantastic show and the most earwormy theme song in the history of television. Mm-hmm. Arguably, I think all of television ever.
It's one of my top favorite theme songs ever. But seriously, whoever ruined Katy Perry should be shot into the center of the sun and bring back the Katy Perry
I just want to point out that your major complaint is that she cut her hair.
No. No. That's not the number one problem. When you have a brand that is a pop star, there's a couple things that are important. Number one, you got to look like a pop star.
Right.
So, number one, that's been fucked up.
Wait, she looks like a pop star. Just because she has short hair and she's like rocking a different kind of outfit, it's totally fine. It's her summer 2017 look.
She looks circa 1996 Eminem. Right now.
You mean like 2001 Eminem, where he came into the MTV Music Awards with all of the M&Ms?
Sure, yeah.
My name is... Yeah, is it My Name is?
Yeah, she looks like Slim Shady Eminem.
Yes. Yeah.
Which wasn't really a great look even for Eminem, but he needed something to separate himself from the rest of the rap scene other than the whiteness.
Sure.
Number 2, the music is just the worst it's ever been. And I don't know who's writing the music for Katy Perry or if it's a different person than used to write the music for Katy Perry, because clearly Katy Perry's not writing this music.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think she's writing her own songs?
Nope. Her name might appear somewhere on the liner notes.
Right.
Like of the 18 people who wrote the music, you might see Katy Perry written on there somewhere.
Change your word, get a third. That's how it works. Yeah,
that's exactly it. She probably just walked in. She's just like, can we say like instead of love? And then it's just like, yeah, sure. Sounds like a great note, Katy. We got that. And you're now a songwriter.
Now you get credit. Isn't that great?
Thank you. And then she walks out. And the third is just the shallowness and misappropriation of black culture that's happening constantly throughout what she's doing right now.
Wait, so what is she misappropriating about black culture?
Did you see her performance on SNL?
I didn't. I didn't watch any of that. I literally left. I wanted to watch the SNL portions, and I did, but I did not watch.
For being king of the internet, you're pretty. You seem to be missing a lot of the memes about Katy Perry. Like,
no, I saw the Backpack Kid memes, and I don't know if that's what they were. Like, Did
you ever see the Katy Perry trying to dab? And all the rappers that were up on stage with her, like looking at her, like,
okay, I did see
what the
that.
hell?
Was that on SNL? Like, oh yeah. She's so dabbing though is not misappropriating black culture.
No, but
that's just
her
youth
like
culture.
Her like being up there trying to act like Flavor Flav, and just doing a shitty fucking job of it. That's my basic one. But
listen, Katie, grow your hair out.
Grow your hair out. Look like me.
Yeah.
And then you'll be better off.
And then Corey will not buy your albums because he's not listening to your music anyway. Right. So go ahead and please a person and a type of people who don't listen.
I've bought a song or two.
Of Katy Perry's? Mm-hmm. What song?
I love the shit out of Wide Awake.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You were possibly going to use that in a film in the future. Mm-hmm. And with this new career trend, it'll probably be cheaper. So maybe you can encourage. You could get her whole catalog.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Katy Perry, keep doing what you do because it's great.
All right,
There's not a single problem with what you're going on.
As long as we can get cheap music, that's all that matters.
That's all that's important to me.
Yeah. So from one mistake to another, I really want to talk about this week.
By the way, just super quick before we move on.
You can't play the song?
No, I'm not gonna play the song. I'm just looking at all the actual Katy Perry songs I have on here.
Yeah.
So I have California Girls, a bunch from the first album. I think I have the whole first album.
Teenage Dream?
Last Friday Night. No, that's the second one, and then Wide Awake. So I have a decent amount of Katy Perry. I'm keeping her afloat.
I don't think that's keeping her afloat.
Not anymore, but.
But anyway, so one thing I really want to talk about this week is that truth has become stranger than fiction. Like, we are stepping into a world that only a movie writer and a director and a producer could create for us.
Like, say, Mike Judge.
Right, yeah. Now, when I think about the world, I don't want to live in a Mike Judge world. Beavis and Butthead.
Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. And I guess Silicon Valley is kind of real life, but like... I don't want to think that nerds rule the world because I'm not a nerd. So I'd prefer just to keep it nice and for the, I'm not a jock either. So
keep it for the regulars.
Keep it for the regulars. Yeah, the regular people. Yeah. But no, so we've officially stepped into Mike Judge's Idiocracy. And I know that we've said this before. This has been a theme before on the podcast. But I make an argument that this week we have officially become part of the movie instead of something separate from the movie. Like, we exist in that universe now.
I feel like we're getting closer and closer to the time right before the movie starts.
Okay.
Like, the movie takes place at a very specific date.
Well, you mean that after when he falls asleep,
right?
And then when he wakes back
up,
right.
Once he's already in the future,
bunker. He's in the bunker right now, sleeping. Yeah.
He's in the bunker at this moment, but he's getting very close to waking up,
right?
Because we're so. And anybody who's listening to the sound of my voice and has not seen the movie Idiocracy,
oh god,
just do it.
You have to
one
watch
of the best, and it will never feel more real than it does right now.
100%. So what pushed me really to that this week is that if you've seen Idiocracy, and I guess I don't want to spoil it. How old is it? It was from like 2003. So
I don't think it was even that long ago.
Really?
I'll look it up.
I feel like it was in college, but here is a warning. There be spoilers. We may say stuff about the movie, so if you haven't seen it, you may want to just tune out until you see it and then come back and be like, oh, these guys were right. But
2006.
Okay, so wow, it wasn't while we were in college. You were in college.
11 years ago.
God, yeah, the country has gone so far in 11 years. But this week, a Montana politician body slammed a reporter instead of answering his question. The reporter was kind of insistent on his question, and the politician didn't want to answer it. And finally he said...
Can I set up a little bit of this?
All right, go ahead. Yeah. Go.
So what this had come from was the CBO score of the Trump Care bill.
Right. Yeah.
That passed through the House without a CBO score prior to its vote. And
this guy didn't vote on it because it's a special election for an empty seat.
Right. But everyone wanted to know where he stood. And Giaforte's plan was, I'm not going to talk about this until after we got a CBO score, until I know more about it, because right now I don't really know what's in the bill. Yeah. So I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it until I have numbers. And I think he was hoping that the CBO score would come out after the election.
Right, yeah.
But inconveniently for him, it came out the day before the election.
2 days before the election. It came out. It came out on Tuesday, and then this interview was on Wednesday.
Oh yeah,
and the election was on Thursday.
So the reporter who had kept asking him about it and kept getting the "I'm not going to talk until I get the CBO score," came up to him and said, "What are your opinions on this?" Essentially,
no, wait, didn't come up to him.
Yeah,
they were at a press event. It was in a room. They were both sitting. They were doing a interview, and another set of reporters was also in the room getting ready to do the what are those called? The cattle calls that they do for film.
Like the quick hits.
Like a junket. They're basically doing a junket. Like this guy from The Guardian was going to do his interview, and then quick switch over, and now I'm going to be on Fox, the local Fox station.
Right.
And apparently Mr. Politician didn't feel like answering the question, and he decided he was going to leave. And from what, again... and I know people are going to jump all over this. It is what it is. But from the facts that have come out thus far, from the information, not the facts, the information that have come out thus far, they both apparently stood from their seated position. And while he was standing, he was still asking him questions. There's a transcript and an audio recording going at the same time.
Yep.
And the politician grabs him by the front of his shirt or his jacket and then lifts him up and body slams him down onto the floor, breaking his glasses, and you can hear the scratch, and boom, down on the floor.
Yeah.
So something happened, and the reason that again, if you haven't seen Idiocracy, the President Camacho is essentially a professional wrestler.
Yeah, former pro wrestler.
Right, and so
I think he's supposed to sort of be The Rock.
Basically, he's The Rock, and it's Terry Crews in one of his most fabulous performances, but very Terry Crews-y, not like I'm professional and just funny Terry Crews.
Yeah.
Like I'm office linebacker.
Yeah, Terry Tate, office
linebacker. Like I'm just gonna be aggressive and big. So, and God, he was huge in that movie. Can't believe he's still that big, and it's been 11 years, man. Anyway,
he doesn't look like he's aged either.
It doesn't look like it's something magic. But in the end, Giaforte, despite having assaulted this reporter, despite everything that has happened, won the election. And now he'll be going to Congress. Although he may have to come back to Montana because there have been charges filed against him for assault.
Yeah.
So we have a guy who essentially
also keep in mind that the reason why he wasn't in a jail cell all day yesterday.
Yeah.
Was because, number one, he got bailed out right away.
Of course.
But also, one of the biggest supporters of his campaign was the sheriff.
Right. Who was holding him in the jail.
Right.
Welcome to America. This is where we are. You body slam a reporter. You get charged with assault.
Friends with the sheriff.
Apparently, the sheriff didn't even want to charge him, but at the insistence of...
the reporter.
He had to charge him. So he even charged him with petty assault, which would assume that the bail would be low and be able to get out. When arguably it probably was felony assault. And the grand jury may end up coming back with felony assault, which would be a serious jail time. So the GOP just can't get out of their own way. Like, he wins the race. He's going to go to Washington, and already there's a gate of some kind, a wrestler gate or body slam gate,
right,
heading into his job there in Congress. So, I mean, I don't understand what goes through the heads of the voters. Now, that being said, it is a very, very Republican district. And what I heard today was that the district vote came out. The opponent got 94% of Hillary Clinton's votes. Mm-hmm. And Giaforte only got 68% of what Trump got in that district.
So here's the thing. I don't know what the final ended up being because I can't seem to find that.
Yeah.
But here was 87% of the vote in a CNN article here. Giaforte had 50.6% of the vote. Quist, who was the Democrat, had 43.6% of the vote.
And then non-votes or votes for other people? Where's the difference?
I guess it would have been there was a third-party candidate.
Yeah.
So maybe he picked up
a few percent,
a remaining percentage of it. But the part that there's a couple things. A lot of people are saying the Democrats need to get their shit in order because you lost an election where the other candidate, the Republican, actually body slammed a reporter, and that should be enough to eliminate him from most campaigns for public office.
Yeah,
a couple things. Montana is a huge vote early state,
right?
Especially because it's such a big state and they don't have so many precincts.
Yeah,
so
you had to go a long way to go vote.
It would be like if you lived in Towson and you had to go to Glen Burnie to vote.
Right.
Like, that's a pain in the ass. It's a hassle. You don't want to drive an hour and a half out of your way after work to go vote. You'd rather just mail it in.
Right.
And two-thirds of the election results, or 2/3 of the people who voted in this election voted by mail prior to any of this happening. So whether or not 66% of the vote would have changed given this body slamming moment is up for debate, but I imagine that the number doesn't get higher, it goes lower.
Right.
So he would have lost votes if everybody voted on election day as opposed to mailing in early.
And what I've told people is you live by the sword and you die by the sword. I will never argue against early voting because in places like that, it helps people get out and actually vote. And,
right. You're more likely to have a higher number.
Right. And when you're in districts that, like places like North Carolina, where they routinely shut precincts in certain neighborhoods to force long lines at other places, early voting, voting by mail, those kind of things can be excellent ways to make sure that you do get to vote. So,
and as despite being a majority Republican state, Montana actually has it figured out pretty well. So they have vote by mail, they have same day voter registration.
Right.
The problem is that it's just such a big state and there's not enough places to have precincts to make sense.
And again, so the big news here,
it's not like California where you have so many cities and states and counties and like it's basically its own nation. So you can set up like so many different.
Come on, 2018.
Cal exit.
But the scary thing now. Everyone was looking at this election initially to say this is a test about what's 2018 going to look like, because if Giaforte wins by just a little bit, it's going to be bad. If he loses, it's really bad. But unfortunately, the whole body slamming thing threw off that theory.
I mean, it really isn't a big. So the fact that Trump won Montana by 20 points,
right?
So. That was pretty much the baseline that we were going with. Mm-hmm. So, with the election results that I had so far, with 87% reporting, that was a 7-point win by Giaforte, which is less than half of what Trump won it by.
Right, and
which is not a great sign.
Not 7 points over. I mean, 7 points over the Democrat, but not 7 points above the combined.
Right,
because the presidency in Montana was a 2-horse race. So you could say it was 20 points above the competitor. he squeaked out a less than 1 point majority. So that bodes really extremely poorly for what happened. But again, it spoils the thought of, will this happen nationwide? Well, because he body slammed a reporter the day before the election.
Here's the other thing. If I were somebody who had the ear of Tom Perez or anybody in the upper echelon of the Democratic Party, I would start having a serious conversation about at what point are we just going to say fuck everything and just go in on every race that comes.
You got to.
You got special elections in Montana and Georgia that the DCCC have just decided they're not going to be a part of.
Right.
They're just not going to put resources into helping these people try and get elected. And then just even the littlest bit seems to make the most outrageous difference. Bernie Sanders comes out and goes across the state of Montana with Quist to try and raise the vote and get more people in his camp. And it works. Just Bernie driving around Montana with him was enough to help him get a boost in the vote.
And
the DCCC, up until the last week, had spent any money on the race.
No. And the outside money...
There could have been a chance that this could have been a much more competitive race when people started sending in ballots.
Yeah, if you'd spent the money. Outside money
he came up... Quist came up quick at the end. The polling, he was just gaining and gaining and gaining.
It's like if he had another week, he might have caught him.
Right. If he had another week, maybe it would have been closer, but then the early vote. So you don't necessarily...
Yeah. And so... The Bernie's headed to Georgia. The next race that we're looking at is John Ossoff in Georgia, Georgia 6, I want to say, Georgia 5. But he is running in a district that hasn't elected a Democrat since Democrats were Republicans. Before the switch in the 60s, and then they hadn't elected a Republican. They elected the same guy as a Democrat, and then when he switched to a Republican, they just reelected him as a Republican.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of district this is. And he has a chance to be the first Democrat elected there, and the race is looking very tight. So Trump also won in that district pretty well. He won the state of Georgia pretty high. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a big test to see. 2018 is kind of being fleshed out in these special elections. There's one in California. That's not going to matter at all.
What I don't get is that the Democrats are worried about wasting resources on a race where, the Republican won by 20 points. And I get it. I get you don't want to go in whole hog with, $15 million per race and see how things go. But these are great opportunities for the DCCC to put in a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Hey, let's try this ad campaign against Trump and see if it helps raise Quist votes or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Or let's use the numbers that we have, come up with a strategy, and see if it works in a case where we have a Democrat who's highly unfavorable to win.
Yeah. How about pay Nate Silver, because I know Quist could not have afforded Nate Silver on his own. Just pay Nate Silver to do some
I don't think
polling.
Nate Silver would necessarily put polling out in the field because they're more examining the numbers that are already out there. But I'm saying
so have him.
If you want, you can easily get somebody who's good on analytics.
Yeah.
To help try and figure out the weak spots and where you have traction and what you can do.
Yeah.
I just don't. I completely don't understand what the DCCC is doing because they're going to come into 2018 without a game plan,
right?
Which is the problem that they had in 2016.
Yeah,
and you're going to come into 2018 without a game plan. You're going to fight people who are basically taking over the Bernie wing of the party, and trying to keep the more traditional Democratic Party in tow. Yeah. And it's just going to be a whole fucking shit show. And maybe the Democrats pick up 10 seats or something like that, which to everybody who's watching at home will be like, oh wow, 10
seats.
Yeah, it sounds good. But no,
doesn't help. It does not help anything.
What you need is to nearly sweep and just pick up a huge amount of seats all at once because you need control of the House back.
And another great
thing. And if you want to get rid of Trump, step one is win back the House.
Yes.
I mean,
impeachment.
There's other things that you would want, but you want to win back the House so you can actually charge him in the House.
Yeah.
And, while you're at it, probably win as many governorships as possible because then the likelihood of you being able to win the House in the future is higher.
Redistricting on a statewide level, which helps you win congressional seats. Even though I really think that we need to stop allowing state bodies to redistrict. It needs to just be done by a computer, the fairest, most square shapes. and let the chips fall where they may. And that'll shake everything up, especially when people start getting boxed out of the district that they live in. Like, oh, sorry, you don't live in the 6th anymore, so either run in the 5th or
I mean, what I would say is probably take whatever the history of the different districts has been.
Yeah.
And try and like use a computer model that goes off of that.
Why?
But not necessarily.
Why not just say, here are all the voters in the state, form the best districts possible?
So take this as an example. In when the Maryland First started seeding into Baltimore County.
Right.
You could look at historical maps of where the Maryland First was.
Right.
And see that it has always just sort of been the Eastern Shore plus whatever else is sort of at that top north end of Maryland.
They have to add voters in order to make it the right size. But
right.
It's always the Eastern Shore plus whatever number of people we need.
Right. But I'm saying if you said that one of the districts is going to be the Eastern Shore plus something, then the computer can come up with a model that does that.
Yeah.
And it won't be the one that goes, like serpentine through certain streets.
Yeah.
But it'll be something that encompasses the entire Eastern Shore plus a little bit.
Well, see, but it would have to anyway, because you can't have a district that spans a bridge or like a body of water.
Right.
So it would automatically have to choose the Eastern Shore, and then it would just pick a chunk of the Cecil County and maybe Baltimore County and say this is the district. What you don't get is the serpentine streets. You also don't get.
I mean, like you would never have a box in Maryland.
Right. No, Maryland's not 4 boxes.
Yeah.
But you might have a diamond in the middle of the state.
Right.
And then like a three-sided square with the tail of the.
But I mean, like, basically, at one point, I don't necessarily want the computer to have carte blanche and like this is what the computer said and this is what we're going with.
Right.
Because there are issues that affect certain congressional districts.
Like what?
Like, take Elijah Cummings in Baltimore. Like his district is pretty much exclusively Baltimore.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit of sort of that Catonsville, Reisterstown area.
Yeah.
But essentially, his district is Baltimore.
Okay.
Being the congressman for the city allows him to go out and fight for mostly city issues, things that would help the city on a national level.
Now imagine there was 2.
But I'm saying if there's 2, and now Elijah Cummings has to do, south of Baltimore Street.
Right.
All the way to Glen Burnie, then he's dealing with new issues that he hasn't been dealing with prior.
Okay,
I'd rather have, if there's a congressman that's going to take up the entire city of Baltimore, like it's big enough to do that, then just leave that as is.
I make them as square as possible
because the issues that deal with Baltimore City don't necessarily deal with Glen Burnie.
Right, but that doesn't. You're going to the national Congress.
Right.
You have to deal with a lot of things that don't impact Baltimore or Glen Burnie.
Oh, I get it. I'm just saying.
And if you have 2 congressmen from Baltimore, now you have 2 voices advocating for Baltimore.
It makes it way easier for you to do your job in Congress if you start saying, how does this help my constituents?
Okay.
And your constituents are all relatively in the same. Like, the life in Baltimore is way different than life in Glen Burnie.
But that's how we get to this problem, because you say this doesn't impact my constituents. But if you had urban, suburban, and rural constituents in your district, everything impacts all of your constituents.
Right. And
that's what we want.
But, I mean, like, Elijah Cummings isn't going to go up there and be like, fuck the Bay, because, like, none of my territory involves the Bay.
Here's an important thing.
He knows that that's an important issue statewide.
I don't want Elijah Cummings to be there. I want to kick out all 595 people who are there and start over with fresh people.
That's fine. I'm not
who are young and enough to say I can represent Glen Burnie.
Listen, Elijah Cummings can't drive, so I don't necessarily feel like he needs to be in Congress anymore. Anyway,
you have a personal vendetta against him. That's something completely different. But a couple of like little issues I wanted to touch on at Idiocracy in America this week. One, that a kid was awarded by their teachers in the school most likely to be a terrorist.
Yeah.
How have we gotten to this place? Like, we are a show that has jumped the shark.
Right.
What are we doing when the teachers are like, it'll be funny? Let's name her most likely to be a terrorist.
So I guess this wasn't something that was thought about very hard.
Yeah.
Something tells me that they thought it would be funny. don't know why, but something tells me that somebody laughed at it somewhere along the line. They're like, oh, it'll be everyone will like this. Everyone will think it's good. But the problem is that, like, you don't... What gets me... So, if on the podcast here... Yeah. I said something like, of anybody I know, you're the most likely to be a terrorist.
You'd be right.
Well, no, but I'm saying if I said that out loud, I haven't... It's not like I have a script in front of me where I'm reading off of it and it's been prepared. Yeah. That's just a thought that came off my head and I said it to you. And if it offended you, then you would... Like, that would all happen. It would all be one moment. Right. Where it's like, wow, I said something inappropriate. I didn't think about that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Just came out.
Don't apologize.
But I'm just saying. These people, the people at the school, talked about it enough. They wrote it on a piece of paper.
Printed out certificates.
Yeah. And then handed it to. There were many opportunities. If I thought about if you thought about it at any point beforehand and you looked at it, you said like, wow, that's not a great idea. That's part of the problem here. Like,
they thought it was a good idea the whole way along. And here's what I want to say.
By the way, Dirty Shore Underground saying they should have gone with a power bomb instead of a body slam.
Yes.
Giaforte. That I probably would have enjoyed that more. Jim Ross commentary in the back, like, oh my God.
Only if it was caught on video. That's what I would really hope.
He's killed Ben Jacobs.
But here's what I want to send a special message out to this girl. Listen, in high school, I was awarded most likely to be president. That's probably not going to happen now. But I would have traded all of that to be awarded most likely to be a terrorist. So you have a lot to live up to. Come out and join us on the radical left. We'll be waiting for you. But something else that happened this week, a guy in Portland started screaming anti-Muslim epithets on a train. And when two people stood up to try and stop him, he then cut their throats. So here's my question to you. Do we blame Trump for this? Should we blame Trump for this? He hasn't created the environment where this is okay.
Okay, so this is something that I got into a little bit with you the other day. Mm-hmm. I think that for as much as there is wrong with the Trump administration, and I'm not trying to...
There's a lot.
I'm not trying to placate any of it. Yeah. I'm just saying a lot of it is wrong. A lot of it's problems that they can't... Like when Sean Spicer goes up and says that it's the biggest inauguration of all time. That's an easy one you could have fixed before you even said anything. Yeah. Like, that's your own damn fault. Like, you can't say like they're horribly out of time. They're just wrong. They just don't know any better. Right. But there seems to be an outrageous amount of things that are Fox News for the entire time of the Obama administration would put out these little stories when nobody else was like bad-mouthing Obama for something, going like, did you know that President Obama ate buttercream ice cream today, and buttercream is the official
mustard on his hamburger.
Oh, some fancy-ass French president we have, like whatever. They would get on Obama for literally everything and anything. Now, the rest of the media has switched to that position.
Right, yeah.
And when it's something like Russian interference or Jared Kushner or whatever, or, the size of the inauguration or spicy hiding in the bushes or whatever it is. Yeah. Like, it's easy enough to go like, ha, look at them, they're idiots.
Right.
When it's something like President Trump trying to get to the front of the crowd and like gently like getting his way, not like gently, but like
not gently,
but pushing his way through. Like
and the stories, his jacket.
Yeah, the stories I saw of him going through the crowd and past the Montenegro prime minister was so much of like Trump viciously attacks his way to the front of a crowd, and I'm just like, come on, guys, like not everything has to be
right. Now I agree with that.
Now it's at a point where it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and he did elbow his way through.
Right, and I'm not saying that it was great, but I'm also if I was watching that live, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. Yeah. If I was watching CNN when it happened, I would have been like, what the fuck did he just do to the Prime Minister of Montenegro? I wouldn't have even thought about it.
I'd be like, that's a douche move, but, you have to continue on, unfortunately. Yeah. So you don't think that Trump has created a environment where this kind of hate is okay?
I think that he has. I think that it it has gotten worse since Trump got into office. But
Right.
I'm not ready to make a direct... It's more likely that it would happen now.
Right.
But I'm not saying that Trump did this.
This is a lot like the
People
attacks.
still do...
They do things like this,
Yeah.
right? But there were attacks
just
at his
like
rallies.
Just like when the guy got dragged off the United flight.
Right.
Then
yeah.
you're hearing nothing about stories about things that are happening on airlines for the next month.
Right.
Because that's what's hot. That's what
Right.
people are talking about. Things like this that happen within the month where talking about airplane stories is like the big deal.
Yeah.
Happen all the time. And they never
Yeah.
get reported. The only time they get reported is when the airlines are in the news.
Right.
So something like this, I'm sure, happened at some point during the...
It's happened a lot.
Oh, I know.
1,700 times since the election. 1,700
No, but I'm saying-
incidences of racially motivated attacks.
But you're not, how much did it happen during the Obama administration?
Much lower.
No,
At a
I'm
much
sure
lower
it,
rate.
I'm sure it happened at a much lower rate,
At
but
like
it's still
11 per month, and now we're at 1,700 in the last 8 months.
not denying. I'm just saying that there was a certain amount of this that was happening regardless before Trump happened.
Right.
And even though it has spiked since then, and you can correlate the spike to the Trump becoming president.
Right.
I don't feel like it's, you would never be able to sue Trump for this.
No, and I'm not saying sue Trump for this, but you're saying there's correlation. I'm saying there's causation.
Yeah.
That there is a causation of people saying, because he holds rallies where people get dragged out and he says things like, yeah, hit him, and encourages that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where he's encouraging racial violence, where he's trying to have a Muslim ban, where he's trying to deport every person of Mexican descent, whether or not they're citizen or not. In fact, like 100 people who were citizens of the U.S. got deported and then had to come back. Like, that's happening. It's giving a certain segment of society an excuse to say, when I have these feelings, when I have this opinion, I'm going to go out and I'm going to spread it. And he's not done anything to go out there and say, listen, let's calm down. Let's not do this. That's what he should do. But he doesn't want to do that because he wants this to happen. He wants a racially motivated, I don't want to say a race war because it's not really a race war, but that's what he wants. He wants to pit the white majority against everyone else because that's how he won the election.
Yeah.
He won white men and white women and won the election. And that's what he knows he needs to continue to survive. And he knows that he can keep fucking everyone over all the time and still win the election.
Yeah.
If the issue is race, it's Muslims, it's people of Mexican descent, it's people of
the wall.
Hispanic,
Yeah.
the wall, all of these things. If he can make it that, why do politicians still run on abortion and gay marriage?
Because it wins.
Yeah. How much does that impact your day-to-day life?
Yeah.
Of nothing. Of course not. I mean, yes, it may have an impact on your life at one time, but they are winning races because that's the issue that wins for them.
Yeah.
And when you say I am anti-abortion, or I'm pro-life, or I am against marriage equality, marriage should be between a man and a woman, a certain segment of that lizard brain in certain people goes, oh yeah, sure. I want to vote for that guy, despite the fact that he has no plan to do, I don't know, make your life better in any way. Address transportation, address food, address housing, address jobs. None of these things does he have an answer for.
Nor
because
does
he's pro-abortion, you're fine.
Nor does he have enough people to do any of these issues.
No.
Like, I mean, he hasn't filled like anybody in any one of his. He's filled like some cabinet positions, but hasn't applied.
He has like 270 empty spots.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but in the end, I think that I don't want to blame Trump for everything, and I don't blame him for this guy doing this thing because it's not like he instructed him to do it.
Yeah.
But when you create an environment where this is okay, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're letting the dogs. You have a dog that you know bites people. You don't take him off the leash at the park.
Right.
And when you take him off the leash and he bites someone, I can blame you. Now,
Yeah.
I can't blame you because he bit some kid because, I mean, I really want to. But in the end, the dog made its own decision to go bite that kid. And you're like, well, at home, he doesn't bite anybody. He just is super friendly. But I can look at you and say, you've created the environment where a kid could get bit. And now that's your fault. So there is blame. It's just not his. It's not like he instructed it, but he does have blame.
It's not direct.
Right.
Okay, so real quick, I got two other things here.
Yeah.
I'd like to get through them real quick before we're
yeah.
done. Number one, the budget. Trump releases his budget proposal, and it is, to say the least, shocking. Like, here's the thing. I feel like if Trump was trying to court people who are leaving his cause or vote, or who might reelect him, he should focus on more populist ideas.
You'd think that would be a smart move.
But he's not, and he's putting congressmen and senators and such in positions where they have to say, no, we're not cutting Medicaid.
Right.
When the bill pretty much clearly says that it's cutting Medicaid.
Yeah.
It's the amount of cuts is shocking. It's $8 billion from education.
Yeah, I have the numbers right here, actually.
Oh, okay.
The only departments that got increases. Take a guess at what you think got an increase.
Defense
Got an increase.
Homeland Security.
Are you reading it?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
I would have to say border control or security.
It's part of Homeland Security.
Okay, well, still.
Veterans Affairs. So he's fulfilling the one campaign promise of taking better care of the veterans, which, by the way, shouldn't have to be a campaign promise.
Yeah, it should just be there.
You got blown up in Iraq in a war that we shouldn't have been in the first place. The least we can do is take care of you when you get back. And by the way, people still dying in Iraq and Afghanistan. Can we please do something about that? And now Syria. Now we're going to war in Syria. Looking to go to war elsewhere. The last thing we need is spend more money on
pretty
defense.
Soon it'll be Montenegro.
Well, yeah, because Montenegro's not going to take that shit. But what got cut? Agriculture cut 20%. The EPA cut 31%. State and international programs cut 30%. The Army Corps of Engineers, the guys who keep the dams from breaking, keep highways from collapsing, cut 16% because we don't need those guys. Transportation, also part of the budget to, keep those roads up, cut 12%. It's ridiculous. Cuts all over.
I completely understand that a lot of people's opinion is that there's so much waste in the government.
Right.
And it is ridiculous that we spend so much money that just goes to red tape and paperwork and nonsense, and we're paying somebody $60,000 a year to work for the government, and all she does is sit in an office and put stamps on envelopes.
And I agree. There's a lot of red tape.
Those types of things I totally get.
Yeah.
If Trump had just come out prior to the budget being released and said, listen, before I became president, you all know I was a businessman, and one of the first things I do whenever I take over a new business is I go through all the operating procedures and I try and make things that have, like when you see double charges for something,
right,
cut it down so that you're not paying double for it.
Yeah.
Find all these places where you're losing money and try and make it better.
Yeah.
So if he said, I cut $8 billion from the education budget, but there's not going to be a single noticeable difference in the way the Department of Education works, I just saved us $8 billion.
I'm down.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Because we can try and pare down the debt a little bit.
Right.
But that's not what he does.
No.
He says, education is broken. We're going to get less money because why is it going to waste our money?
Yeah, we're not going to give a broken system more funding.
Right. Or we're not going to figure out a way to fix a broken system. Right. We're just going to give it less money because
Let
it's
them
broken.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's important. It's only the education of future Americans.
And again, I feel like I understand that the national debt is going to be a humongous, outrageous problem soon.
Yeah.
It's already
it's
skyrocketingly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible. But at a certain point, it's going to get to the point where you just have to say, like, we can't have Medicaid anymore.
Because we will never get to that point.
Well, I'm just saying,
never
like,
get to that point.
It doesn't have to necessarily be Medicaid. But I'm saying, like, we can't have this anymore.
Yeah.
This government program, which everybody we can't afford it. Because our government costs are so high, and we have to do this, that, and the other just to allow it to continue. I understand you want to make cuts. You want to give tax breaks to rich people. Just figure out a way to make the things cost less. That would be my number one. If I was president, if you put me in today and said, come up with a budget, I would sit down with as many smart people as I could possibly get in a room.
Yeah.
And say, like, all right, you've looked at, like Stephen Hawking, you've looked over the education budget. Like, what do you think? And he'd be like, well, I mean, there seems to be a lot of waste here, and here.
Well, I don't think he'd be moving his hand.
I know, but
I don't think he'd be talking. But yeah, I get your man.
Yeah. But like, I would sit down, the smartest person we have on education, I don't know off
Betsy
the top
DeVos?
Oh, well, clearly, sure.
She's got to be the one, right?
Let's just get her in a room.
Yeah.
Say, what's wrong with education? And she's like, gays. And I'm like, all right, well, we can't cut that out of the budget. But
the problem with public education is that it's public. We need to make it private, and then everything will be fine. People should pay for education, like the good old days. Anyway, the other one thing I love about the budget, though, is that they use the same $2 trillion savings to cover two things. Did you see that?
Yeah.
These are the smart guys. They're supposed to be the smartest guys in the room.
The other one, too, is that the standards they use for growth are like the most optimistic standards there ever are. And it'd be like if I told you that I'm going to buy a Cadillac.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy like a CTSV, $110,000 Cadillac. And I'm not so worried about the next year's worth of payments.
Right.
Because I'll figure out a way to make it work. I'll trim where I need to trim to make those payments work.
Yeah.
But next year, when I'm making $500,000 a year, it's not going to be a big deal.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
And you're just like, what makes you think next year you're going to make $500,000 a year? And I'll be like, well, I did the numbers, and clearly that's it. Every single time I do the numbers, it says I make $500,000 a year next year. And it's like, well, what if you don't? And it's like, I've done the numbers.
It's going to be.
I've done the math. I know it's going to be okay. You're just like, no. I think you should prepare for the eventuality that this might not work out. It's like, no. I did I'm fine. I'm good.
It's totally fine. And I just want to reiterate to everyone, this budget and the $2 trillion that they're using twice, all of this is to cut taxes on the top 2% of taxpayers. Now, I say this a lot in my personal life, and I just want to reiterate it here. When was the time of the greatest growth of the American economy?
When wages were sort of standard across the...
Well, they were pretty standard. If I'm looking for 2 decades of enormous economic growth, what 2 decades would I be looking at?
Post-war?
1950s.
Yep.
And probably the 1920s as well.
Yeah.
Economic growth was huge in the 20s and huge in the 50s. What did those 2 time periods have in common when it comes to paying taxes?
Higher tax rates for the top 2%.
A 79% top tax rate, which means if you were in the top 5% of wage earners, 79% of your income went to taxes.
Yeah.
And that's how we got wonderful things like the society we have, the roads, the police, the fire, the schools, everything.
The highway system.
Yeah. That's how we paid for it, with super high taxes. Now, can you think of any super rich people from the 20s and the 50s?
Yeah.
Yeah. They still had their wealth.
Yeah. But they also had wealth that couldn't... They had other things that allowed them to keep more of their wealth.
Oh, yeah.
That aren't in place today. So, I mean, you couldn't have a 79% tax rate.
Why not?
You couldn't have a 79% tax rate and all the regulations that we currently have in place, or else somebody like JP Morgan wouldn't be JP Morgan anymore.
Well, I don't want JP Morgan. So let's just keep that.
Well, no, but I'm saying, like,
Morgan, but
if the idea is that the stories in the 20s of JP Morgan's wealth being like equivalent to what it was like 12 or 13 billion dollars today.
Yeah.
And you think that you could do a 79% tax rate on him. But he also didn't have so many things that were cutting out of that 12 or 13 billion dollars like would be today in modern society.
Here's what I'm telling you. You could tax him at 79%, and this is why it worked. Because JP Morgan didn't own a car.
Mm-hmm.
The company, JP Morgan, owned a car.
Right.
And he rode around in it. They owned I guess not a plane probably, but like a boat, a yacht, a train car. Yeah. They owned these things and he used them. So when you tax the rich people very high, they leave their money in the companies, and then the companies reinvest that. And you know what happens when you reinvest money in the company?
Make more money.
Make more money. And they also create jobs because they're like, we're going to get taxed the shit out of on this money. What do? We need to show a loss. Open a new plant. All right, that means we're going to have to hire like 1,500 people. Well, dang it. Okay, you do that, and then you pay them.
I'm not going I am not going to sign off on a 79% tax rate, though.
79%. That's what I'm telling you.
That's ridiculous.
Can you imagine you make $1 million and you walk home with $210,000?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So it's $210,000. You could live for a long time on that.
No, and you know what? Here's the thing, though. I will say this because of my proximity to affluency.
Yes.
Are
you approximate to it?
Approximate?
Are you proximate to it?
I mean, a little bit, yeah. Okay. But I'm saying like...
Not personally. So, you mean people who are rich, not personally.
I know
yourself.
of many people who are rich.
Okay, all right. I thought you meant you were on the verge of being rich.
Well, that too. I mean, clearly I'm going to make $500,000 next year. I've already crunched the numbers. I've done the math.
Yeah.
When you have money, most people are not doing lavish, stupid things with it.
Okay.
I mean, if you're a Musical.ly star who makes a lot of money, yes, you're going to buy a lot of stupid things.
Right.
You're going to buy gold fidget spinners and shit like that.
I've actually seen a gold fidget spinner.
But when you are like a family man who happens to make $500,000 a year, mm-hmm. You start making decisions like, okay, well, now I can afford to send my 3 children to private school.
Okay.
Instead of public school.
Yeah.
And I can pick the school that they go to.
Okay.
And, each one of their tuitions is going to cost $10,000 a semester.
Are the kids not going to get to go to school if they don't go to private school?
No, but
they'll continue in public school because with everyone else.
Because you have the ability to send them to a better school.
Yeah.
And because the money is not like, it's not like it would bankrupt you to spend the money to send them to the private school.
Right.
You can do it.
What if I took more of your money?
But the costs get, I mean, like...
What if I took more of your money and invested it in the school and made the school they're already in better? And then all the kids, not just the rich kids, get better education.
You remember how last night we were having a discussion about like, the prison and like what is a crime and everything like that. And I said there's so many
heel clicking and some arm raising. There was some German being spoken.
There's so many different issues involved in fixing the criminal justice system. It's not one thing or the other. There's many. It's a plethora of things. To fix education in this country is not it's not like, pay more for teachers.
I'm not saying that it is.
There's so many things that are wrong. And there's so many things that have been ruined essentially by multiple different ideologies coming in and running for 4 or 8 years at a time.
And then switching it up.
And then changing things and moving around. Yeah. And like, we're going to pay for teachers to have free college education if they teach for 4 years. And then no. And then this and then that. And then the easy solution is to try and fix the issue first.
Okay.
Don't start taking the money from people to try and fix education right now because it's not fixing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying cut it by $8 billion. I'm just saying maybe the issue should be fixing education. Try and come up with a way that it runs as smoothly as humanly possible without waste or with minimal waste.
Right.
And where you get the most bang for your buck.
Okay.
And it's something that personally, I would like to see something that allows the school system to institute things that work for its community.
Sounds a lot like states' rights.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that running a school in Baltimore City is way different than running a school in, Champaign, Illinois. Like,
okay,
they're very different. They're very different.
It's kids. You're educating them. They have different life experiences, but kids on West Baltimore and East Baltimore have different life experiences too.
Yeah,
they're much different.
Yeah,
if you grew up in East Baltimore or West Baltimore,
right? But I'm saying
just the same as it's much different if you grew up in Champaign, Illinois.
Part of the reason why I think education worked for me was because at a certain point I started getting teachers who understood that I wasn't learning the same as other kids in class. Okay. And that because of ADHD and stuff like that, I needed to have a different learning experience from everybody else.
Okay.
If it's one size fits all, then people like me are the kids that are left behind.
So, and I don't want to get into a big discussion about changing education, but the whole thing is the teacher who said you need to learn a different way, that's because you were lucky and you were in a good school. But what if we could make every school that good? What if they could have caught you 2 years earlier and said, yeah, he needs some little extra help. Let's do that. Because the funding was there, and because the training was there, and because the entire system was just that good. That's what we want.
Yeah, that it'll have to be a thing for another podcast.
We're going to have to talk about education.
One last thing before we go. Jared Kushner is... We talk about Trump getting bad headlines for things like the Montenegro prime minister.
Yeah.
Feeling a little bit undeserved. And then just as easily comes out a story that Jared Kushner met with the Russian prime minister, or not the Russian ambassador of the United States, and had discussed setting up a direct line of communication between the Kremlin and Trump Tower.
Yeah.
And had spoken with the Kislyak multiple times throughout the campaign, much the same as Michael Flynn, and then didn't disclose it on any kind of NSA paperwork.
Punishable by 5 years in jail.
Yeah.
What
per
are the
occurrence,
odds?
Correct?
What?
Per occurrence.
Per occurrence.
Yeah.
What are the odds Jared Kushner does a single day in jail?
Oh, God, no. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Even Trump, I don't. Somebody will fall.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Flynn's
probably going to fall.
Yeah.
But.
All right, but yeah, so here's the thing. Jared Kushner, at the behest of the president, maybe.
Jared Kushner, ... talk to Russians.
Yes. Did so, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, on tape. One of the conversations was recorded. So we watched I think it was John Oliver who did the thing about, like, when you stay quiet most of the time, you're either a genius or you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to lean towards idiot. Maybe he's not as smart as everybody thinks he is. Like, when you ask a weird question, is it profound, or do you just not understand what's going on?
Right.
I'm leaning towards he has no idea what's going on. And why would you talk in a place where you could be recorded? Why would you contact them in April and then again in November, right after the election?
Yeah.
Which looks a lot like, hey, let's make a plan. Hey, let's celebrate that the plan worked.
Yeah.
And why would you need to set up a back door to the Kremlin when you're in the White House? We have one of those. It's an actual teletype machine.
The thought was that, from what I understand, was that the argument that Kislyak was making was, if there's a direct line of communication that doesn't have to go through intelligence agencies or state or
get approved by anybody.
Yeah, like you don't have to go through all this hand wringing just to have a little conversation.
Right.
That we could solve a lot of these America-Russian things real easy.
Yeah.
And I feel like if there wasn't a big, huge act of collusion here, hiding somewhere deep below it all, if I heard something like this, I wouldn't go like, you know what, you're right. Russia and America have had a very sordid past, and we need the ability to talk without all the other grown-ups in the room.
If Kushner and anyone in the Kremlin who has Putin's ear are saying, like, listen, between us, we have 17,000 nuclear warheads. Like, let's do something about that. Let's start destroying them. It's bankrupting both of our countries. Let's start destroying them. Or, hey, let's get together on this whole Israel-Palestine thing.
Yeah.
I think that if we put all of our heads together, we could do it without, again, being public about those discussions.
Now, I'd like to throw out a quick example of why, like, a State Department and the many agencies that get involved between communications between companies happens. Let's say that you are defending somebody who was charged with spousal abuse.
Okay.
You're defending the husband,
right?
The one who beat the wife, hypothetically. Allegedly beat the wife.
Yes.
You saying to him, "I want you to keep me abreast of anything that might happen. If you see your wife, I want you to tell me about it. I want you to tell me what happened. I want you to tell me the time and date in which it happened,
because we don't want to be surprised with that information later.
Yeah, we don't want something to happen.
Yeah.
And if for whatever reason you feel like you need to reach out to her about something, talk to me first.
Yeah.
Just, maybe it's something I can do for you, then we can avoid any kind of trouble.
Yes.
But let me handle this.
Right.
I will be the go-between between you and her for the moment.
Yeah.
And then he calls you 3 days later and he says, yeah, so 2 days ago I went over to the wife's house and we got talking, and then I left. And then I found out yesterday she went to the hospital for a broken skull or a skull fracture.
Yeah.
And the doctors are saying something about it's from some sort of like assault, it seems. And you'd be like, all right, so none of what I just said got to you.
You didn't hear anything.
Yeah,
you didn't take any of my advice.
Right.
Yeah.
You would say, this is why we have these communication.
Yeah.
This is the reason why you don't allow just the president and Russian president to have straight communication without any kind of buffer is because many different plans can be ruined.
Yeah.
By not keeping everyone in the loop.
When Reagan,
and it's not meant to. The State Department isn't meant to ruin your good time or talk about or like ruin whatever your plan is with Russia. They just need to know. They need to know.
When Reagan met with Gorbachev, they said that they were on track for one of the biggest agreements of the Cold War era. And it got ruined when those two got in a room together. The State Department and the Kremlin had worked it out. Like, we had this deal.
Yeah.
And then two men with two big egos sit in a room, and all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah.
And then we walk away without a deal, despite months of preparation and working this deal out.
Also, the other thing is, if I'm negotiating with you, if I'm trying to buy something from you, and I don't have anybody else to go to, then I have to keep everything that I have to keep my cards very close to the vest.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I can't offend you, I can't upset you, because then that puts the deal in peril.
Right.
If I have the opportunity to talk to a manager at some point and work on this deal,
check with my boss real quick,
then I can play it a lot more openly.
Yeah.
It doesn't help you to have the two in the room. Like, it just doesn't. It won't work out.
But the other thing is, it's not just communication. It's not just lying on a form. It's bordering on treasonous. Because the question is, if you set up a private line with a leader of another country,
right?
Either you've done that at the behest of the president, and then you didn't admit that under questioning or on a form, or you're doing it without and not at the behest of a president, which is what we call treason. Because you are not the leader of the country, and you're trying to set up lines of communication to a foreign leader. Mm-hmm. So this is one of those there ain't no good answer situations for Jared Kushner, where I think he'll just sit in the corner like this.
In the conference room, still wearing the bulletproof vest.
Oh, yeah. He'll be wearing the bulletproof vest all the time now. All the time it'll be on. And I keep saying, like, one of these things has to be. It has to be the break. We are playing the weirdest game of political Jenga right now, and you've like Jared Kushner contacting so you can see it. Jared Kushner contacting the Russians, Paul Manafort contacting the Russians, Michael Flynn.
Yeah.
There's got to be one that tumbles this tower over. But it looks like we're going to end up having just the middle column just stand up.
Just one single column in the middle that looks like a big thing.
Like, I don't understand how... Like, it's going to be a MC Escher painting. Just this weird spiraling upside-down staircase that's still vertical for some reason. But hope springs eternal. Maybe we'll find something.
I just think it's funny every single day how the New York Times has some story, which, if anything like this had happened during the Obama administration, just one of these stories.
Any one of them, yeah.
Yeah. If, who is the, the one who's mayor of Chicago now?
Rahm Emanuel. Yeah.
If we found out that Rahm Emanuel had a conversation with the Russian ambassador about setting up a private line of communication between the Kremlin and Chicago.
Impeachment.
Yeah. Oh, immediately. And it would have been the biggest story ever. If Hillary had won and we found out that Debbie Wasserman Schultz and I love how your brow gets, bro. You look like a rabid dog when you hear her name. Kislyak and Wasserman Schultz have discussed making some sort of thing where all the communication will go through Hillary headquarters in Harlem.
Yeah.
Like,
impeached.
Yeah, we never would hear the end of this. It would be on Rush like every single day where he'd, like, Americans, you must be outraged by the act of Hillary Clinton, and
Alex Jones' head would literally explode on camera.
Yeah. They'd be like, no, hold on, just run camera. Let's just put it in front of it. It'll be funny. It's like, what's this?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of these things something has to give. And I guess we'll get more details about what happened. Apparently, the House and Senate have subpoenaed all of the records, all the communications from the campaign.
Yeah.
So something's going to happen, and that's even separate from the special counsel who hasn't even taken office yet or started investigation.
Or Comey testifying in front of...
Which, by the way, I told you wasn't happening on the 24th.
Well, I heard it could happen as soon as 24th, but it seems like after Memorial Day it will happen.
Yeah. But before we get out of here, I do want to talk about one other thing. Because we've
been God, one other thing.
There was a tragedy in Manchester this past week. And we too often, because it happens right at the beginning of the week, we have so much going on. But this is one of those things that even at an hour and 10 minutes, we need to take time to talk about it. So Ariana Grande was having a concert in Manchester. And apparently, from the information that at least I've seen most recently, some guy was waiting by the door with an explosive. And as the young girls, her fans, who are teenage and early 20-something women, were exiting, the bomb went off and killed 12 people, I think.
And injured 86 or something like that. A
lot of people. Yeah. So what are your initial thoughts about this?
I mean, it's just, it's incredibly sad because I don't, we are no longer in a society where we can feel safe everywhere. You know, that's part of the problem. And I think part of what has really made terrorism so terrifying is that when we used to talk about like having to go through scanners at the Oriole game, like when that first went up, we're just like, why would they ever do it to an Oriole game? It's not like it's the World Series or something like that,
right?
And then a bomb goes off at a Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, and I'm sure everybody who went in
probably did do this.
Like, why do we have to go through all these security procedures? And we all complain about it, and most of it's to find alcohol. But I mean, like, these things can happen literally anywhere, at any point, and it doesn't have to be, you know, like you can be literally anywhere, and something like this will happen.
Yeah.
And there's no proper way to protect yourself all the time from every single situation or occurrence. There's just not enough safeguards in place.
Being ever vigilant is the only thing.
But even then, I mean, like, what do you do? You see somebody who looks sketchy, you call the cops? Like,
that goes against every fiber of my being.
Right, but I'm saying, like, you know, there's people who, you know, like the see something, say something is a popular saying, and I'm not saying
get stitches.
I'm not saying that's the way to go, but I'm saying, like, you know, like, what if you saw somebody and then later you went to the Staples Center to see Kenny Chesney, and I was throwing something out there.
Okay.
You went to the Staples Center to see Ariana Grande, and you saw somebody who looked really sketchy doing something really weird.
Yeah.
Like off in a corner somewhere. And your initial impression is like, well, I'm not going to call the cops. Like, what the hell am I going to do? And then later something happens. You would feel...
You skip the part where I go over and investigate. Because as a white man, I feel the need to poke my nose into everything. And I have no fear. It's like, I believe it's Cedric the Entertainer who said that you can always tell what kind of neighborhood a guy grows up in. Because when gunshots go off in the city, you see all the brothers run in one direction. And then you see that one white guy like, we need to check this out and see what's going on. Like, that's me. I would go over in the corner and be like, hey, buddy, what's going on? Because here's the thing. If he's not ready or if I surprise him, then that does the same thing as calling the cops. Except for by the time the cops get there, maybe he's gone. I am a person and I can intercede. I take personal responsibility for that.
You never know. You know, it could be somebody driving a car into a dance club or...
Yeah.
You can't prepare for everything. I guess it's a scary world.
It is a scary world.
The fact that kids are dead is like very... the most disheartening part about this to me. Yeah. I saw a lot of people, like, I don't get I'm not a fan of, like, Ariana Grande or anything like that, but I think it's kind of sick that there's people who are making this about, like, her or what she's done or, like, Pierce Morgan was going like, why didn't you stick around and visit all your fans in the hospital?
Yeah.
Like that seemed a little bit like unnecessary. And then there's also the part where it's, like,
but she's also a 20-year-old girl.
Yeah, and there's also, I saw a lot of things from like parents going like, I don't understand why these parents would let their kids go to this concert all by themselves. Like, if you were a responsible parent, you would be there with your kid. Yeah, and then maybe you die too.
Yeah, yeah.
And now you're leaving like a husband and a son all alone because you and your daughter went to the Ariana Grande concert and got blown up. Like,
well, and more than that though, it's like they're in downtown Manchester.
Yeah,
one of the most secure places in the country, in the country of the United Kingdom or England, depending. But they're at a highly secured facility. And I remember being dropped off in the general area of the mall and being told, go have fun.
Yeah.
And then I'll meet you, because we didn't have cell phones, I'll meet you at 4 o'clock out here. Be here at 4 o'clock.
Right.
And then you just be wandering around the parking lot at or near 4 o'clock waiting for your parents to get there. Like, this is not something new, and maybe it's new because the world is different from when we were 18 or 15, however old these kids are. But when mom drops you off and says, go into the concert that you wanted to go to, I think that you shouldn't blame the parents who say, all right, I'll drop you off, you go in, I'll meet you afterward and pick you up.
Yeah.
I don't want to go sit through 3 hours of Ariana Grande. I mean, I do, but that parent probably doesn't want to. But I have.
Nor do you want to pay a ticket just to sit through.
Just to sit through. Yeah. Which, by the way, some of my clients do this awesome thing that parents are free. So if you buy a ticket for your kid, you can actually request these blank tickets, and as long as you are clearly a parent when you come in, you get it for free.
Yeah.
So it's like you pay $20 for your ticket's $20. Parents are always free. And it encourages more people to come to the concert because the parents are like, well, I'm not going to pay to go sit. No. It's free for you.
It's like, well, I guess while I'm there, I'll have a beer or two.
I don't think they serve beer there.
Well, I'm saying like I'll have a Coke or two.
But so I have a radical way to address this problem.
Okay.
This week, the United States, for the second time in 1 week, bombed a site in Syria. We killed 0 ISIS fighters. But what we did do is kill 188 of their family members, women and children, and civilians who just happen to live in the area.
Yeah.
Do you know how you get terrorists? Get terrorists.
Kill family members of people who will one day become terrorists?
Yes. Because some little kid, some little boy whose mother was killed by an American bomb now is growing up without a calming influence in his life in a place that's very radicalized. It's just like a kid on the street at gangs. It's exactly like being in a gang. You go, don't have the influence at home. You find the influence outside, and it leads you down a bad path.
Not only that, but you are essentially, if ISIS killed a family member of mine, then I would be more likely to be inspired to do something to get rid of ISIS.
In 2001,
if the United States killed my family, then I would be more likely to rise up against the United States and try and fight whatever.
And they don't even say the United States; it's the West in general. So it's UK,
but I'm saying
France, it's US.
When you're doing things like bombing entire or droning entire villages to kill one suspected terrorist
who you
miss, and then you end up killing 1,000 people who are not terrorists.
Yeah,
you're not ingratiating yourself to the rest. You know what makes a wonderful opportunity to show the West, like show what our lifestyle and our democracy is like? Have people come here.
Yeah.
Have people visit. Have people see.
How about come emigrate here because your place
not
is
even
horrible.
Not even emigrate. I remember. Like if I've had conversations, I meet so many people on film sets who are from elsewhere in the country.
Yeah, or the world.
Or in the world.
Yeah.
And they say, that's what I meant, the world, not the country, who are from other countries. And they see that things aren't exactly what it looks like.
Right.
Just like if I told you that I was from China, most people might have some sort of thoughts about like what China is like or what it is, or But
when you go there,
when you go there, it's way different.
Yeah.
Like you might have,
it's not a Jackie Chan movie,
right? Or you might be like, "What's communism like?" Like,
right?
until you go there and experience it and see what life in China is like, then you don't really know.
Right.
You can't read enough to really know, and you can't figure it out. You know, like you got to...
The experience is something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like having them come here and experience it would be great. Not killing them would be
or their
fantastic.
families.
Yeah. If you think that we're wrong about this, think about the fall of 2001. How many people from your high school, maybe not so many in your high school, but that you knew who had never talked about going in the military before, were all of a sudden like, you know, maybe the military is an option?
I mean, my high school was a little different. It was super small, so right. I didn't like have it.
Friends that you knew. Did you know people who went in the military?
No.
Okay, so a bad example. I knew a lot of people who had never talked about...
But I also grew up rich and white, where we didn't have to go...
So for me, it was totally different because I grew up in a place where we were poor and rural, and people who had never talked about military before wouldn't even have thought about it. Like peaceniks, like hippie peacenik pot smokers, some of them are all of a sudden signing up for the Marines. I'm like, who are you? Like, they attacked us.
Yeah.
We have a chance to go over and get them, and I'm going to go do that. Why is that any different for them than it is for us? When we kill them... When you see that we've killed 188 civilians, I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is why they're flying planes into buildings and blowing up our concerts.
And
this is why.
Not only that, but I mean, you know, like take 9/11. Most people, the highest body count of a terrorist attack on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
The amount of people that I knew who said that they knew somebody who was there,
right,
or who worked there, and might have, just by luck they weren't there that day. The amount of people that the extended universe of the people who died touched, and every single one of those people, for the most part, like felt incredible. Like, you know, like I want to fight whoever did this, whoever killed my friend Bob.
Yeah,
like. It didn't have to be your father. It didn't have to be your son. It didn't have to be anything. Your wife. It could have just been somebody you knew.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. It's a really scary world. I don't think we're doing anybody any favors by killing the family members of people who are causing the trouble. You know, like.
When are we going to figure out that fighting terrorism isn't about snitching on people on a train? It's not about the keeping a climate of fear, which is really the point. The point is that they want you to be afraid.
It's not about body counts either. And
it's not about body. It doesn't matter how many you kill, because when you kill any of them, it's just going to cause more to spring up.
I mean, you know, like the if you told me that the raid on Osama bin Laden killed 5 civilians, I would say okay. Otherwise the raid was successful.
Right.
We had a stated target. We took out the stated target. There was as few civilian casualties as possible.
Right.
Sometimes it's just going to happen. We had our chance. We took it. When you're taking out 150 people in a village at a time, this is no longer the.
At a guess.
We took out 5 because we had to. Yeah. Because they stood in the way of us being able to take out.
And generally
the target we were looking for.
They were pointing guns at us, which means they're not civilians. Right. They are in the moment there trying to kill us, so we try to kill them. And I think hand to hand like that, like the idea of troops on the ground. And let me be clear, I do not want to send troops to Syria. That is the worst thing that we could do. Yeah. Let someone else fight that war. Why is it our job to fight every war? But but in the end, though, that we fix the terrorism problem not by continually being scared, not by still every day living in fear that this is going to happen, but instead by going to these places, bringing people here so they can experience our culture, showing them the good things of the West, not a piece of a bomb fragment that has an American flag on it. Right. Like, that is not endearing us to anyone. We need to change something about this and figure it out, and it's not going to be killing more people. That's not the answer. That just makes more terrorists. So.
Yeah. Well.
You know what else makes more terrorists?
No, don't do that. I was trying to come up with a way I could transition without doing something like that. Mm-hmm. Oh, OhTheAnthem.com, Corey at OhTheAnthem.com, The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595.
And you can find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com for more information about me, my political blog, foundingthefuture.us, the news website, and the books, which are available on Amazon.
I don't have Rob's books, but buy Rob's books.
Yes, they're available. They're very nice. And if you want to see what happens in the next few years, the movement, insurrection, is basically everything that's happening right now. The opening of that book is essentially
It's like the anarchist cookbook for the modern day world.
It really is. It's fantastic. You should read it. So check it out. And make sure you do check out OhTheAnthem.com. Of course, new episodes of the podcast are available every Tuesday. If you are listening to this on Tuesday, because, why wouldn't you? Then make sure you join us on Saturdays, where we generally do a live stream on Facebook. Make sure you're liking the Facebook page and turning on notifications so you can see it.
And many big things coming.
Yes.
The live stream is the first of many steps. Right. This will grow bigger and better. We're still working out kinks.
Yeah.
But stick with us because things only get bigger and better from here.
And if you're in the Baltimore area, make sure that you, even if you're not, go to OhTheAnthem.com, go to the merch tab, pick up your Oh The Anthem t-shirt, including your Play Ball, Drink Bow, Scream O, Play Ball t-shirts.
Or the Baltimore Corner t-shirt.
But if you get your Camden wear, your Orioles styled shirt, look for Corey next weekend because he will be in Baltimore at Camden Yards.
Yep, on Friday.
And I'm sure he'll be wearing his shirt, so you make sure that you get yours and wear yours as well. Get that express shipping from OhTheAnthem.com.
Yep. Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good, but as always, you are listening to the Oh The Anthem podcast, part of the Oh The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody. And make sure that you check out the DSUG Dirty Shore Underground podcast, new episode on Thursday, and the Anthem Alliance podcast, new episode whenever they get around to it.
Yep. See ya, folks.
Have a good week, everybody.